Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Masterminds YouTube channel. I'm excited to take the opportunity to introduce you a new master who just joined our network, Patrick Warenjak. Patrick is an English native speaker. He was born and lives in Canada. He's a text editor and he's university professor assisting in evaluating English literature. Patrick, tell us, what are the common mistakes that foreigners make when they speak about the business in their second language, which is English?
Thank you for the introduction. As we know, English is quite a frequently used language all around the world. And typically when businesses are trying to present themselves on the international market, they want to look professional. They want to appear responsible and trustworthy in their presentation, especially when they implement the English language. So in terms of sort of two common mistakes that are typically done by these sort of businesses that are venturing into the English language, which, as you mentioned, is their second language. The first, which is commonly seen, is that businesses tend to translate things literally. So they'll take a phrase that sounds great in their own language and then just simply one for one, word for word, do a translation. And what typically happens is that it sounds a little funny. It's not exactly the same sort of phrase or meaning is translated there. And from a business perspective, this could turn away investors because they would see a product, or let's say a product description or a website, which just doesn't look too appealing to them. I had a recent example. I was at a food court here in Poland while I was visiting, and there was a sign that said, well, in Polish it said not to throw away your plastic tray into the garbage, but it was translated literally in English, and the translation was funny because in English it translated to don't throw your bin, sort of in a general sense. So it was a minor, I guess, mistake or a minor slip up, but to an English speaker, it does appear a little silly, especially for a big shopping center which looks fantastic. So I would say that would be the first common mistake, would be literal translations. The second would be a sort of a disconnect in tone. So the sort of distinction between formal or informal language. When you're translating in a business setting and you're looking for new investments, for new investors, the way you sort of present your business, are you going to be formal or informal? That is quite important. And this is typically lost during translations, in that the way that you might think something sounds fantastic when you've done your translation yourself in English, it might not sort of carry the same tone to the investor, especially if your investor is from a country where English is their first language. So they would sort of see that difference between, your sort of idea of how this sounds in English versus what they see. And typically, if you're at let's say if you're at a restaurant and you're just sitting there, that you're sitting down to have a meal, and you look at the menu and some things are translated a little poorly, it won't really make much of a difference to you there at that moment, because you're only really there to eat and be on your way. But if, let's say, you were the entrepreneur, the business owner of that restaurant or whatever sort of business, and you're looking to sort of expand, let's say go more into the European market or even global, well, then these sort of differences in tone and in general in translation could be the breaking point between whether or not some bigger investor is interested in sort of, I guess, working with you, starting to work with you, getting to know you, and eventually investing and helping your business grow. Again, if your translations are done poorly, perhaps from the investor point of view, they might see you as not as responsible for not sort of making sure that these translations were done well. So in terms of two common mistakes, like I said, the first would be a literal translation. These commonly end up being quite frequent. And second would be this sort of distinction between a formal or informal tone. and the disconnect that causes.
Yeah, I definitely see that more and more businesses go global or international. And I think that the need for professional English translation is in high demand right now. Patrick, tell us how we can support you. What do you need?
So the Master Match community, I think, could help me in that I am currently right now in Poland. I do jump between Canada and Poland. And while I'm here, I am interested in some sort of job opportunities. I do have, as you mentioned in the introduction, some background in English language translation. I also have some background in the legal and criminology field. So in terms of job opportunities, if perhaps going the avenue of the legal approach, perhaps there are some people in the Master Match community who are well sort of acquainted with what the legal job market is like, what sort of requirements are sought after, and what kind of positions are feasible and available.
I'm sure that we do have help available for you. And I wonder how you can help other people in our community.
So if there are any people in our community who are looking to, let's say they already have a business running and they want to expand beyond Poland, and they're looking for these English translations with a specific sort of focus on making sure that this translation is done professionally, and that as I mentioned, that sort of literal translations aren't being done, that the tone is there, that the meaning is translated accordingly into English. That would be something that I could help with. I know that in some countries, for example, in the United States, there are these sort of contests where various entrepreneurs are entered in, and they have to write up like a short description about their business. Perhaps they already have a website for their business, and it's already done in English. And what typically happens is that the organizers would go through your applications, they would look at your written material, they'd look through your website, and when money's on the line, the smallest of margins tend to make a big difference. So perhaps there's, I don't know, let's say a top 3, and you're one of those top 3, and within your website, they've managed to find a few errors which they weren't really happy with. So in this case, from the top 3, you were now disqualified, and you weren't able to land that opportunity for investment. So that's one area I could help or offer help with. Another is just the easy beginning stages, right? It's easy to sort of come up with a great business description, a great looking website with lots of very nicely worded text about everything that you're doing. But if it's in your native language and you're looking to translate it into English, perhaps that's not the easiest thing for you. Maybe it is, but you'd like to have that sort of approach that would be lacking for those who aren't as comfortable with English in the beginning stages. That's also something that I could easily help with.
Thank you so much. I think that your skills and experience definitely can provide value to our community. And if you guys would like to receive some help from Patrick or any other experts, please do not hesitate. Visit our platform MasterMatch Online and submit your request for knowledge or service. The platform finds for you relevant connections to people in the network of masters who can share the knowledge or experience with you so that you can save time on research and move quickly with your business objective. Thank you, Patrick, again for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.